Hi, Jody Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. There is a typical problem that happens in many relationship dynamics when people are having conflict or whenever one of the members of the couple is upset or frustrated. Often what happens is people try to problem solve for the person who's upset or struggling, and sometimes this comes across as a invalidation of their feelings or their experiences. For example, say somebody is stressed out or frustrated and somebody's like, hey, the sun will come up tomorrow, everything's going to be fine, and, it'll probably be okay. It's probably not as bad as you think it is. And that sounds all well and good, but sometimes it comes across to the person who's feeling upset like your feelings aren't really valid and that what you're saying and experiencing isn't actually true. So rather than getting straight to the, hey, let's come up with a solution for you, or a reason why the problem may not be so big, which may be true, but first it's important to empathize and validate. And this is a key to reducing conflict in many dynamics, but particularly with your partners, is whenever you are feeling particularly stressed out or angry, usually we want somebody to be able to hear us first. So this looks like, for example, hey, it seems like this is a really upsetting topic for you. I'm really sorry that it's such a struggle. What can I do to help? Or it seems like this is really stressful. Is there anything I can do to help you with that? Or I'm so sorry that you're struggling with this, right? And I'm sorry is another thing that people have challenges with. So just because you're apologizing for their feelings doesn't mean that you're owning it or taking responsibility for that. So it's simply, I'm sorry that you're struggling. Like, I feel badly that you're struggling. And that is another way to frame it too, rather than saying I'm sorry, is it hurts me to see you suffering, or I feel so badly whenever you're going through that. To really express your empathy, especially if someone has a hard time with hearing the I'm sorry, because they don't want you to take it on as your issue. But recognizing what their feelings are, recognizing that it's a difficult situation, it's difficult, even if it is just a perspective, just recognizing how challenging that must be, even to see it that way. Like, gosh, yeah, I can see how you understand that from your perspective, and that would be really hard. I get it. Like, that's a tough one. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with them, especially if it's a conflict that's related to you. Like, say maybe you did something wrong, or maybe you did something that irritated them. That it doesn't necessarily mean that you're agreeing that they're right and you're wrong, but you can still hear and validate. And I can't reiterate the empathy and validate enough, because so many people jump to either defense or rebuttal, or even, as I said, even if you're trying to help out, you're trying to resolve something for them, you miss the part of the conversation where you're connecting and communicating in an emotional way. So that's the part that's most important. Usually when we're feeling animated or intense or frustrated or whatever the emotion is, it's our goal is to try to be heard. Most of us want to be heard. That's the most important part of why we're communicating. It's not because we want someone to be informed necessarily as much as it is, I'm really hurting. Can you hear me? Can you relate? Can you understand why I might feel that way? And jumping straight to a solution or problem solving can completely eliminate that connection piece. So not that problem solving isn't helpful in certain situations. Usually it's like unsolicited advice. So unless you've been asked or requested for your opinion or your perspective, usually, especially in a either conflict situation or when someone is feeling intense or feeling a strong emotion, people need validation before they can hear any solutions or want any solutions. So you can even frame it like that, like, hey, I'm really sorry you're struggling right now, or I feel so badly that you're struggling. Can I do anything to help? Or, gosh, that must be really hard for you. Can I do anything to help? Or, hey, I have some ideas after you've validated, right? I feel, that's so sad that you're experiencing that. Would you like some ideas? I think I might have some insight into how we could maybe work on this. Would be a nice way to approach it, rather than just dishing out the unsolicited advice, which is what many of us feel compelled to do, right? Especially when it's someone we love that's hurting. We really want them to feel better. We want them to stop hurting. So it's really natural for people to jump to that place where you're coming up with solutions. right? And then the other part of coming up with solutions is often people come up with the best solutions for their own problems. It's helpful to have some perspective, especially if it's kind of an anxious process or the thoughts are kind of spinning in circles. It can help to have someone help you navigate through that by asking questions. So being able to ask more questions about, what's that experience like for them, or what started, or how did this whole situation start, or what was the strongest part of that emotion that you were experiencing, or when did you feel strongest about this experience, or what have you thought about trying to do to fix this problem, or have you thought about any ideas or solutions on how you would resolve this. The other part that can be really helpful is coming up with situations or examples that the person has been able to solve problems in the past or come up with a solution or even recover from a real hard emotional experience. Is if you can have some memories or some evidence of that experience where they have been successful, sometimes you can help kind of lay the groundwork for them to open up to possibilities or to ideas of how they can move forward on their own or come up with their own ideas for what would be successful for them. So again, for example, hey, remember that time when you navigated that really tough situation with your boss at work, and your boss was really kind of being nitpicky on you with you, and you were able to kind of confront them in a really non-threatening and peaceful way and told them you were feeling kind of bummed out, and you shared your feelings in a really great way, and that you resolved that really well, and your boss really responded well to that. So I believe in you. I believe that you're able to come up with solutions, and maybe this is a similar situation, or maybe it's something like that. What are some ideas that you can come up with that might be helpful with that? Though we all navigate emotions in a different way, and it may be challenging whenever your partner is in an emotional state, the way they present their emotions to you. So it can be helpful to express your concerns about how your partner is expressing their emotions before you even have these conversations about how to navigate the emotions that come up that are difficult for your partner. So, for example, if one person maybe is really insecure and the way they kind of cope with their insecurity is maybe they lash out a little bit, or they are fearful that something's happening that isn't happening, and so they can kind of get a little accusatory. And even though that's not necessarily who they are or all of who they are, that is an aspect of the situation that may be making it more complicated for the partner to respond in an effective way. Another example is if somebody maybe escalates their intensity whenever they are upset about something, and whenever they're intense, or whenever their tone changes or gets really harsh, or their volume increases, it's really difficult for someone for you to maybe navigate with them how to really empathize and connect with them if you're feeling threatened or maybe uncomfortable with how they're expressing themselves. Now, obviously, there's no wrong emotion. We all have emotions and we all experience them in different ways. But if you can help your partner kind of navigate or be aware about how they're expressing their emotion in a way that may be making it more difficult for you to empathize and not feel like you're being attacked or getting defensive or feeling insecure about what they're saying, it can go more smoothly. So, for example, say somebody maybe is really upset with a situation that you're in. Say you go to a movie theater and the host is not helping you in the way that you think they should, and they're maybe not getting you your popcorn as quickly as you would think they should. And rather than saying, "Hey, is that popcorn coming?" Your partner says, "Hey, you better get me that popcorn right now, buddy, or you're going to be in trouble," right? That obviously is not going to go as well as if they maybe addressed it in a little more neutral way. So whenever you're in those situations, if you can plan for, how do I approach this with my partner when they are calm, right? So then whenever you are in those situations where maybe tempers are a little hotter or emotions are more intense, that you're able to say, "Hey, what's that silly code word we came up with?" Or, "Hey, how about we go over there?" Or, "Look, there's Elvis." Whatever you can come up with to maybe de-escalate the tension a little bit, especially if the hostility is increasing. Because we're obviously, even though we may have the same goals in mind, like, hey, I wanna get my popcorn. I've been waiting for my popcorn for too long, and I'm at a movie theater, and that's what you do. And here's the way I'm gonna resolve it. But if you have the same goal in mind, you both want to get the popcorn, but there's a way to do it that's going to cause less conflict and less stress for both of you. So making sure you have some direction before those incidents happen. Like, hey, if one of us gets frustrated or if one of us is feeling really insecure, what's the way we can address that with each other? Or even just pull rein each other back in if we're getting a little too intense in those moments, to make sure that we're able to connect and validate and empathize with each other without feeling like we're throwing each other under the bus. Anyhow, I hope that has been helpful, and I know that, again, we all have different emotional experiences. None are necessarily right or wrong, but we do impact each other whenever we're in a relationship, and it is important to make sure that we can navigate those really not so comfy situations, even when it's not necessarily directly about the relationship conflict, but in a way that we can resolve the conflict without making it worse or escalating, and really be each other's allies and advocates instead of becoming each other's frustration or being what we take our frustration out on. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your comments. They're greatly appreciated. And if you ever have a suggestion or would like a request about what you'd like me to make more videos on, I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching.